What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Pokemon TCG video. My name is Wesley and I am a TCG creator, I guess. But today we're going to be talking about post-rotation and what rotation is. So, for most of you guys, I'm assuming you're pretty new to the Pokemon trading card game, and you might have just gotten into the standard format and into maybe some competitive Pokemon, and you don't really know what rotation is. Well, the rotation is something that the Pokemon Company does to kind of keep the format fresh, so that you're not just playing the same decks for ages. Rotation kind of keeps things interesting, so to speak. So, what is it defined? How does it work? Back in the day, it used to be done by sets, and whether a card was printed in a set, it would have like a legality, and it would say, okay, we're playing from this set to this set. Those cards are legal, and it was a little bit confusing to know what cards were legal, maybe for newer players. Now it's pretty simple. In every card, in the corner of the card, there is a letter, and that is the regulation letter. So, here, let me grab a card. Let's grab this guy, Boss's Orders. So, as you can see on Boss's Orders in the bottom corner right here, there is a regulation letter. So this one is G. So, this card was printed in the G block, which is a block, is just like a chunk of cards that have a letter. And how the rotation works is that they bring in a new letter and take out an old letter. So this current rotation, all of the G cards are rotating. So what does that mean? It means that any Pokemon that has a G in the corner, or any trainer that has a G in the corner, is no longer legal in play. There are some exceptions, however. For example, Boss's Orders. This exact card. They reprinted this card word for word, even the same art, I believe, with a new letter. Meaning that this card will be legal after rotation because there is a card called Boss's Orders, a trainer card specifically called Boss's Orders, that has the same text with the new rotation, or new block. So that means that you can play any Boss's Orders that has been printed, as long as there is a current legal Boss's Orders. So since there was one that was printed in, I think it was I or J, I think I, they printed Boss. So Boss's Orders is still legal, either way. I think it was printed with an I mark. So, what does that mean for you? If you're new to the game, what should you be looking into? What should you be getting? If you're looking into the game right now, I would look into decks that survive post-rotation. Currently, some of the best decks in the format are Dragapult, Gardevoir, Charizard, Gholdengo. Unfortunately, three of the decks rotate. Meaning that come April, I think it was 14th, sometime in April, mid-April, those decks will not be legal to play. Which gives you about a month from now, not even less than a month from now, to play those decks. So I wouldn't look into those decks at the current moment. What are decks that I would look into are decks that are currently good, that survive, and maybe gain some things post-rotation. For example, Dragapult EX, great deck, is going to do phenomenal post-rotation. It's probably the deck to beat. Once rotation happens, people are going to be looking for ways on how to beat that deck. And if you look overseas to like the tournaments that are happening in Japan, because they're already in the post-rotation format, a lot of the best decks are decks that can beat Dragapult or have a mechanism of beating Dragapult. The main card that is doing really well is Lily's Clefairy, which not only is good against Dragapult, but it is also good against Mega Lucario, which is another deck that will be doing great post-rotation. It's not doing well right now because Gardevoir EX is in format and it's weak to Psychic types. So once Gardevoir EX rotates, Mega Lucario will all of a sudden be good. Which is also why decks like Festival Lead are kind of starting to see better results. Anything that kind of like really lost to Gardevoir will start to do well post-rotation, or anything that lost to Goldengo and Charizard. All those decks are gonna start doing better. That's kind of what rotation is. It's trying to make the format fresh. So what are some cards specifically that I think will be sort of staples in post-rotation? Well, right now, some staple cards are like Ultra Ball, Nest Ball, Professors, I guess not even Research right now, but Research was Iono, Arven, staple cards that are good right now. Most of those are rotating, meaning that you can't play Arven, you can't play Nest Ball, you can't play Iono anymore, and yeah, that's pretty rough. So what are some key cards that I think are going to do well post-rotation and sort of be staples in the format? The biggest card, I think, going forward is definitely Lily's Determination, but we already kind of know this, it's kind of already out. After that, I would say that there's going to be huge Carmine stocks, there's going to be huge Crispin stocks, Unfair Stamp is going to go up, and I guess Judge, I think a lot of people were going to start to play. Any sort of like draw supporter will probably start to see more play that's not Iono or Lily's Determination. Lily's Determination is going to do well. Professor's Research rotates, so there will be no discard your hand, draw 7. Yeah. Cards to look out for are that really, I guess Crispin is going to be doing huge. There's no more like a lot of decks lose their energy acceleration. And we also lose a lot of special energies like Luminous Energy. We lose Luminous Energy, so Dragapult needs a better way of figuring out its energy situation. So you might have to start playing some more basics. Yeah. As well as a lot of the TM, all of the TM evolution, like all of the important TMs rotate. I know there's one TM, it's called like TM Fluorite, that's like so unbelievably bad. But all of the other TMs that are kind of staple standards right now to sort of building decks, like TM Evo and TM Energize, even TM Devo, I think is kind of a staple card. They're all rotating, which means that we're going to start playing like more rare candies. Item lock is going to be way more important because decks are going to be more reliant on item lock, or more reliant on items because there's less good supporter cards out there. I think like Cyrano or Cyrano, Kyrano, Chyanro, or whatever it is called, I think that card's gonna be good, because the only way to find a normal EX Pokemon is gonna be Ultra Ball, and that's really it. And that means that you can only play for Ultra Ball, and most decks already only play for Ultra Ball, and most decks right now have more outs to finding their EX Pokemon that aren't Ultra Ball, just exclusively. For example, Nest Ball. I guess that's really it. You lose Nest Ball, and Nest Ball and Ultra Ball are like the only outs to finding a default EX Pokemon. So either decks are going to be built around like types, and then cards like Fighting Gong are going to be strong, or I don't know. I guess like Terra Orb, Mega Signal might be doing better. But yeah. There's going to be a lack of Pokemon search. I do actually think that stadium, I think it's like called Lumiose City or Lumiose Tower, the one that you can search for a basic Pokemon and then it ends your turn. I think that card might be fine to play, or just EX Pokemon, like big basics decks are going to be not as popular as they once were, and you can't just like turbo aggro, put some EX Pokemon on the bench and just start swinging. But yeah, I also think Terrabox is going to be doing well. I think that deck is going up in stocks. I think, yeah, Tealmask Ogerpon is going up. There's a lot of decks that need that. There's the Arboliva. There's going to be Raging Bolt decks. There's like the Lily's Clefairy Tealmask Ogerpon deck, where you play like Area Zero, Lily's Ogerpon, Lily's Clefairy, Tealmask Ogerpon, and then you just like a lot of grass energy, can accelerate with the Teal Dance, and then you play like Crispin to power up your Lily's Clefairy, and then since there's more bench spots that you have, your Lily's Clefairy just swings for harder. You probably play it even with like the Noctowl engine. I don't think people are playing it with the Noctowl engine, but you like can in theory, and then you can like search out some cards. The Meowth EX is going to be super popular. I think it's going to be pretty expensive. I think Meowth is actually going to be not played as a 1-of. I think most decks are going to be playing it as a 2-of, maybe 3, maybe 4-of, depending on how much you need a supporter. But because Ultra Ball is the only out to finding EX Pokemon, I think you're going to just play more Meowth so that you can find it easier and you just naturally draw into it instead of like searching for it. As well as there's like no item search, so you can't like search for an Ultra Ball to Ultra Ball for Meowth. So I think there's going to be multiple copies of Meowth that get played in decks. Another card I think actually will be going up in stock is Salvatore. I think it's not getting a lot of play right now, but I think because a lot of decks are going to be wanting to go first now, because there's less, I guess there's still a lot of item luck, but there's like less Pokemon search, less supporters, I'm going to say less consistency. I think playing Salvatore in decks like that Mega Starmie or Mega Frostlass or even Mega Lucario, I think playing Salvatore, even as like a 1-of, maybe 2-of, might be quite strong, because you can just Salvatore for turn 1 attack and be super aggressive, especially with all of these Mega Pokemon EX that don't have abilities on them, like the Mega Starmie, Mega Lucario, Mega Frostlass. I think they're all going to be, I think that card's going to be decent, and pretty decently played in decks that are like that aggro stage 1 deck that like uses 1 energy to attack. I also think those decks are going to be playing more copies of Meowth so that you can find your turn 1 Salvatore. Yeah. But yeah, those I think are like my top cards that are going to be doing well post-rotation. I think Secret Box is still going to be super strong. Unfair Stamp, I think, is kind of overhyped, especially in the following set with that red card stamp, red cheeky peak red card thing. I think that's going to be good. I think it might be better than playing Unfair Stamp, but it depends. I think there's going to be, Boss is obviously going to be doing really well. Boss's Orders is a great card. It's going to be continuing to see success. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on what cards are going to be doing well and the post-rotation and I will always miss Gardevoir, I think. It was the deck I played to Vegas, which was my very first regional in person, I guess. Well, yeah, it was my very first regional experience, and it was the deck that I played the most throughout the season. And it was a great deck, phenomenal deck. I'm also going to miss Miraidon EX, despite falling off super hard after the last rotation, losing Forest Sealstone and Raikou. But that's a last talk for a different time. So yeah, if you're new to Pokemon, those are some cards I would consider getting. Find your staple cards, look at the new sets, and just try to find the ones that are either H, I, or J. And then start playing with those cards. Start collecting your Mega Lucario deck and your Solrox and Lunatones, because those cards are going to be great. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.